Okay, today is May 22nd, Friday. We're going to look at a number of poets, mainly women, who have some substantial impact on contemporary poetry today. First, however, I want to take a quick look at a poem I like to cover because it really demonstrates how symbolism within poetry can be powerful revelation. So let's take a look at a fairly famous poet known as Robert Hass first. Okay, as promised, we'll start with Robert Hass. Here we get the poem titled A Story About the Body, and I'll go ahead and read it. The young composer, working that summer at an artist colony, had watched her for a week. She was Japanese, a painter, almost 60, and he thought he was in love with her. He loved her work, and her work liked the way she moved her body, used her hands, looked at him directly when she made amused or considered answers to his questions. One night, walking back from a concert, they came to her door and she turned to him and said, "I think you would like to have me. I would like that too, but I must tell you, I have had a double mastectomy." And when he didn't understand, "I've lost both my breasts." The radiance that he had carried around in his belly and chest cavity, like music, withered very quickly, and he made himself look at her when he said, "I'm sorry, I don't think I could." He walked back to his own cabin through the pines, and in the morning he found a small blue bowl on the porch outside his door. It looked to be full of rose petals, but he found when he picked it up that the rose petals were on top. The rest of the bowl, she must have swept them from the corners of her studio, was full of dead bees. Okay, strong, vivid prose or narrative poem here. Hess's layered levels of symbolism in various ways too. We get the symbolism of breasts, namely their absence. What could one take away from their symbolism? Uh, Motherhood devoid, health devoid, the very symbol of one's womanhood intersected with her sexuality is devoid as well in the breast absence. The blue bowl, too, is symbolic of a number of things, as Hess could have chosen any color for the bowl to be, or even still left it colorless. So the poet, once more, is highly intentional in the small details of the poem. Perhaps the blue is symbolic of a boy, as one of the characters of the poem is in greater proximity to boyhood in terms of age than she is to her younger years. So in that way, the blue of this vessel, this bowl, is to show sharp contrast of the individual's respective age, one could surmise. Even the idea and image of the bowl being this vessel, an object designed to carry, like the trust she carried, that her would-be lover would carry as well. He being entrusted by her to carry with him this secret, in this case, this story, as the title of the poem suggests, of her body. Rose petals, how could one press these things, which throughout history have meant only a handful of things, namely emotion, through the prism of a nuanced symbolism? Well, there's something pure and beautiful as flower petals that are obscuring its antithesis underneath. That is to say, the rose petals, this symbol of love, emotion, purity, nature even, all hiding in a thinly veiled manner the pain and irritation and angst that are the dead bees lying underneath that surely the female character of this poem is feeling. How well those images seem to be working with and even against each other within this poem. Okay, a great deal of symbolism is what I want to take away from this poem. Let's take a look at other poets' works, namely those of the female persuasion. First, we'll start with Louise Glick. Okay, a bit up in her years now, but Louise Glick has had a profound voice in contemporary poetry over the years. Just a bit about the poet. Glick is the author of 11 books of poetry and a collection of essays. Her many awards include the Pulitzer Prize, the National Book Critics Award, the Bullinger Prize of Poetry, and the Wallace Stevens Award from the Academy of American Poets. Glick teaches at Yale University and lives in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Let's take a look at the poem Nostos, as you can see here, which means a homecoming or homeward journey is a literary subject or topos, specifically the return of Odysseus and other Greek heroes from the Trojan War, as narrated especially in the Odyssey. So let's read the poem aloud. Nostos. There was an apple tree in the yard. This would have been 40 years ago, behind only meadows, drifts of crocus in the damp grass. I stood at the window. Late April, spring, flowers in the neighbor's yard. How many times, really, did the tree flower on my birthday? The exact day, not before, not after. Substitution of the immutable for the shifting, the evolving. Substitution of the image for relentless earth. What? do I know of this place? The roar of the tree for decades, taken by a bonsai, voices rising from the tennis courts, fields. Smell of the tall grass, new cut. As one expects of a lyric poet, we look at the world once in childhood. The rest is memory. All right, meaning derived from the poem is, as the title suggests, a type of homecoming by the speaker after many years away. Layered on top of this is nostalgia for one's past. How everything is always shifting, always evolving, always dynamic, as the speaker offers through the word evolving and shifting. You can never go home, Glick seems to be articulating here. Because when you do, it's impossible, as the last line suggests, to view it properly as an adult due to the fact that we view everything with a shock of being a child again. Beautiful, concluding lines here. We look at the world once in childhood. The rest is memory. Okay, the next female poet is Jodi Graham that we're going to look at. Graham is also, like Glick, a recipient of the Pulitzer Prize. Visual art, mythology, history, and philosophy are central to Graham's work. The influence of her mother, a sculptor, and father, a journalist, were triangular upbringing, and her early immersion in European culture are all evident in her poetry. Her influence are predominantly modernist, so influence such as William Butler Yeats, T.S. Eliot, and Wallace Stevens, among others, and help explain the shape and flow of her poetry, which is marked by her reliance on line as a unit of sense and perception. Uh, that we're not going to see that sort of idea here, but her poetry is really marked by breaking the line a lot. We see just one solid stanza within this example. Using long and short lines, indentation, spacing, Graham's forms explore the dualities and polarities of life, of the creative and destructive tensions that exist between spirit and flesh, the real and the mythical, the stillness and motion, the interior and exterior existence. While Graham's first two books received high praise, her third, The End of Beauty, is generally acknowledged as a watershed. In this book, Graham fully developed her long, flexible line and focused definitively on consequence rather than closure. Critic Sven Burkertz noted that in the poems, Graham, quote, discovers in her narrative the critical or pivotal moment. She then slows the action to expose its perilous eventual consequences, unquote. Several of the poems are broken into numbered sections, which she does often. She'll give Roman numerals to various sections, often of seemingly unrelated fragments that are pieces of a larger collage. At times, the poet offers a kind of close reading, which requires readers both to participate in the poem by filling in the blank, and for Graham to present her own inability to express the non-yet conceivable. As in, quote, like a blank, this look between us. So, unquote, in that instance, she left it blank. We would have to have brought something to the table with regard to interpretation, as always within poetry. Okay, so let's read the poem aloud. The way things work is by adding, the way things work is by admitting or opening a way. This is the simplest form of current. Blue moving through blue, blue through purple, the objects of desire opening upon themselves without us, the objects of faith. The way things work is by solution, resistance lessened or increased and taken advantage of. The way things work is that we finally believe they're there, common and able, oh, illustrate themselves, wheel, kinetic flow, rising and falling water, ingots, levers and keys, I believe in you, cylinder lock, pulley, lifting tackle and crane, lift your small head, I believe in you. Your head is the horizon to my hand. I believe forever in the hooks. The way things work is that eventually something catches. All right, so here we have a number of things going on. Firstly, we get the title bleeding to the body of the poem, which is a technique within poetry sometimes. Often it does not, but in this case it does. The way things work is by emitting, right? It's one thought the title creates as it bleeds into the body of the actual introduction of the poem. Next, we get a series of movements, images, namely color. But more than this, we get a speaker that seems to have once been operating under the guise that things don't work, whether the work is drawing connections to relationships not working, career not working, or life in general not working. Just a short anecdote on a personal level. I was in the Marine Corps, as I stated before, and I was stationed, among other places, at an air station. So fighter jets were common sights and sounds on a daily basis. The individuals that maintained and repaired these highly complex marvels were typically in their early 20s. So very young when you weigh their age and their duty next to each other. So in keeping, I was always amazed these hunks of what really boiled down to aerodynamic metal weren't just plummeting out of the sky on a daily basis, but Like Graham's refrain, these things worked. There seems to be hope within Graham's speaker, who excavates the very reasons behind things working, especially made available when we get to the lines, I believe in you, which is we get twice towards the poem's end. I believe in you. Your head is the horizon to my hand. I believe forever in the hooks. The way things work is that eventually something catches. Okay, next and finally, we get Sharon Olds. Sharon Olds is one of the contemporary poets' leading voices, winner of several prestigious awards, including the Pulitzer and National Book Critics Circle Award. Olds is known for writing intensely personal, emotionally scathing poetry, which graphically depicts family life as well as global political events. Quote, Sharon Olds is enormously self-aware, wrote David Levitt in the Voice Literary Supplement. Quote, her poetry is remarkable for its candor, its eroticism, and its power to move, unquote. Old's candor has led to both high praise and condemnation. Her work is often built out of intimate details concerning her children, which we're going to get through this poem, her fraught relationship with her parents, and, most controversially, her sex life. Critic Helen Vendler publicly disparaged Old's work as self-indulgent, sensationalist, and even pornographic. However, Olds has just as many supporters who praise her poetry for its sensitive portrayal of emotional states as well as its bold depiction of unpoetic life events. So let's go ahead and read the poem aloud. Goodwill by Sharon Olds. Goodwill. Sorting clothes, I find our son's old jeans, the dirt worn so deeply, in they are almost tan, worked as a palimpsest, the nub down to the flat gloss, the metal of the rivets soured to ochre, the back pockets curved like shields, their stitching is like water, far from land. A long continuous swell, Lee, the pants say, in auric print, Lee, they say in letters branded in leather on the waistband, like the voice of a boy's pants. The snaps rattle, the rough descending and ascending scale of the zipper, the coin slot pocket inside the front pocket. He had waited inside me so many years, his egg in my side before I was born, and he sprang fresh in his father that morning. I had seen it long ago in science. I shake out the jeans, and there are the knees, exploded, the white threads hanging outside the body, the frail, torn, blue knee open, singing of the boy. Okay, let's start with the title. As we know, poets are methodical in handing out their poem's title. Goodwill, it could be interpreted in many number of ways, but surely one concept it is attempting to connote is a male name in Will or William. Also, just the idea of demonstrating one's goodwill towards the world is surely present here. Who is the benefactor of this poem? That is to say, who is the speaker talking to? The answer seems to pop out of the first line. Sorting clothes, I find our son's old jeans. So in this case, most likely a husband, suggesting some level of intimacy is most likely going to unfold as we proceed throughout the poem. The gene of the poem is really a symbol of what we call an objective correlative, symbolizing something greater, a concept we spoke about within the elements of poetry, whereby the genes stand in for a deeper concept, love, devotion, intimacy, motherhood, etc. Olds here is a master too of comparisons made available through the use of simile, curve like shields, stitching like water, like the voice of a boy's pants. Then we get the intricacies of the final 8 lines where we really get to the sort of the meat of the poem, what its meaning is attempting to convey. In meditating on these genes, Olds allows the speaker to teleport into a series of memories, most notably the conception of the speaker and the son. So great poem. Okay. I hope you've enjoyed our jaunts into the feminine voices of poetry, especially how distinct and profound each of these female poets are to contemporary poetry. Louise Glick, Sharon Olds, as well as Jodi Graham. Okay, questions. As always, email me if any have any questions or concerns. Reminder, midnight on Monday, the essay on Chickamauga is due via email to me. I'll also post your marks for your last essay by Monday. We also have a test next week concerning the elements of poetry and 3 short open-ended questions. They will all be concepts we covered in our lectures, so I'm not going to throw any zingers, okay? All right, let me know if you have any questions. Talk to you guys later. Bye.